Here's your wrestling news for December 20th, 2021. And your headlines for today include, what is the truth behind The Rock buying WWE? WWE switched up plans for Roman Reigns on SmackDown this week. Sammy Guevara and Conti trend after news of his breakup with Fiancé. Divide growing backstage in both WWE and AEW. Why Deonna Purrazzo was labeled as a problem in WWE. ROH champion receives WWE Tryouts. Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green quit GCW at Blood on the Hills event. Rhea Ripley's stolen championship belt spotted. I was Vince McMahon's little pet. Reason why released superstar didn't win a title in WWE, and more. We're kicking off today with The Rock, who has been one of the highest paid performers both in WWE and Hollywood. With an estimated net worth of $320 million, the Brahma Bull certainly has money to throw around, but is he looking to make a WWE-sized purchase? That's certainly what some people believe, as the theory is that WWE's never-ending cost-cutting measures, including releasing a ton of talent and streamlining their divisions backstage, are to make themselves more appealing to a buyer. We also know that The Rock isn't afraid to buy from Vince McMahon, as he purchased the XFL not too long ago, but don't expect the Great One to be taking over in McMahon's office. On his Drive-Thru podcast, Jim Cornette addressed rumors of The Rock buying WWE, saying, "Some people were saying, is The Rock going to buy WWE? I simply could not care less just how rich a movie star he is. He will not be investing $5 billion, all or part of his dollars, into a wrestling promotion or any wrestling promotion for that matter. He is definitely smart enough not to do that. It would take a lot of money to force WWE to sell the company, and the full-time role of running the promotion would likely end his time in Hollywood, so despite now being the head of the XFL, set to relaunch in 2023, the Brahma Bull won't be the next CEO of WWE. SmackDown news now is this week's show is the final live episode of 2021, as next week's show has already been taped, and the week after will be a special review of the past 12 months. With this being the last live episode of SmackDown this year, the Blue Brand wanted to put on a good show, which featured plenty of huge changes behind the scenes. Fightful Select reports that Universal Champion Roman Reigns was initially set to open the show with an in-ring promo, but this was moved to the main event of the night as a last-minute decision. The Usos vs. The New Day was the originally planned main event of the show, but that match was moved to make room for the Tribal Chief, who fired Paul Heyman. A sit-down interview with Brock Lesnar was also part of the original plans, but never made it to air, and the tag match fans saw, in which Shotzi Blackheart and Charlotte Flair took on Sasha Banks and Toni Storm, had been planned for next week's show, but was moved up to this week's program. The Storm vs. Flair Championship Contenders match was scheduled to take place this week, and it's interesting that all these changes happened at the very last minute before SmackDown went on the air. Over to AEW, as TNT champion Sammy Guevara recently announced his breakup with his fiancée Pam, causing his name to trend on Twitter, but there was another name from the company that was also trending. On social media, fans speculated on a rumored relationship between Guevara and Conti, which hasn't been confirmed by either party. Interestingly enough, Conti also recently went public about her separation from her husband, and the two are very close friends and have done several appearances together. It's no wonder why fans are shipping the pair in a major way now, as fans argued that their respective splits from their partners are because of a relationship that's already happening. In the end, Sammy Guevara and Conti are both adults, and whatever they do, or don't do, in their personal lives is their business. But with that said, plenty of fans expect them to end up together very soon. Now, for the past 20 months, WWE have been unceremoniously releasing talent, which in addition to cutting the company's budget, has given the promotion some serious bad press. Almost everyone released has had some harsh words for WWE, but now it's AEW's practices that are under scrutiny. It all began with the release of Urban Meyer this past Thursday, as the 57-year-old was fired from his position as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team part-owned by Tony Khan. New details have now emerged, as ESPN reported on Saturday that the Jaguars intend to withhold the remaining guarantees on Meyer's contract, meaning they won't pay him for the remainder of his contract as promised. With Meyer having 4 years left on his contract, that's a lot of money the American football team are unwilling to pay, which comes just over a month after Khan took yet another shot at WWE for their latest releases. In November, Khan called WWE contracts temporary arrangements, and said that when you sign with AEW, you enter a real contract. Andrew Zarian has reported that Meyer's controversy has created confusion within WWE's locker room as the superstars are questioning what Khan's definition of a real contract is, given that he refuses to pay Meyer his remaining guarantees. He added, "There seems to be a divide happening between talent in both companies. Spoke to multiple sources yesterday, and they feel like many would not go to the other side if there was an opportunity. Either you're Team WWE or Team AEW for many. Vince McMahon may have a fondness for cutting talent, but AEW's president is by no means a saint when it comes to contracted workers either, and for many in WWE, they'd rather work for the devil they know than the devil they don't." Deonna Purrazzo knows about working for both WWE and AEW, but is currently signed to Impact, as well as being AAA's reigning Reina de Reinas champion. On April 15th last year, Purrazzo was released from WWE in the first of many mass releases, and she was appearing on Impact the next month, where she'd become the Knockouts champion before losing the title to fellow WWE alum Mickie James. Speaking on the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling podcast, Purrazzo discussed her WWE tenure and how she pitched ideas that fell on deaf ears. "I mean, I was definitely labeled as a problem in WWE. I was definitely labeled as someone who has a loud mouth, but for a long time, I wanted to check every box. I pitched losing and making that a thing until I snap, you know what I mean? I pitched I don't even need to win the match, just let me keep the armbar and get disqualified, and that can set up a feud with this babyface, and I would do the extra promos and film stuff at home. I really can say at the end of the day, I put every bit of me into that place to make it work, and it didn't, because when I feel taken advantage of, or I feel like I'm not wanted, then I have an opinion about it, and I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to advocate for myself, and I don't necessarily think at the time that was what they wanted out of talent." Purrazzo's next opportunity will be at January 8th's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, where she'll face reigning Knockouts champion Mickie James in a Texas death match for the title, a huge chance for the woman considered a problem by WWE. After their Final Battle pay-per-view earlier this month, Ring of Honor embarked on what they insist is a temporary hiatus, giving the company time to reshape ahead of a return in early 2022. This week, WWE had a series of tryouts from December 15th to the 17th, and these tryouts include a reigning champion of ROH hoping to become a WWE superstar. In a series of photos shared on WWE.com, Roxy, the reigning Ring of Honor Women's Champion, is prominently featured as the company took special interest in her. Roxy began her training at just 13 years old and later studied under the tutelage of Booker T, working at his Reality of Wrestling promotion. Roxy successfully defended her title against Willow Nightingale at Final Battle, but was immediately confronted afterwards by AAA Reina de Reinas champion / Impact star Deonna Purrazzo, who challenged her to a match. There is no word on when this match will happen or if it'll be saved for when ROH is back, but there's always the chance that Roxy will be a fully signed WWE superstar by then. One man who knows about excelling outside WWE is Matt Cardona, who's been impressive since his release last year. A few months ago, Cardona feuded with deathmatch legend Nick Gage over the GCW World Championship, but now Cardona is leaving the promotion behind. At GCW's Blood on the Hills event, Cardona and his fiancée Chelsea Green came up short against Effie and Allie Katch, and an irate Cardona quit the company shortly after. Flipping off the crowd and yelling expletives at GCW owner Brett Lauderdale, the former superstar claimed that GCW is only big because of him, and in a tweet later on, said that his fiancée is also quitting. The pair announced their departure by mocking WWE's releases, saying they wish Game Changer Wrestling the best in all their future endeavors. We'll have to wait and see what's next in store for Cardona and Green, but for now it seems their time in GCW is over. In October this year, Rhea Ripley took to Twitter to reveal that her travel bag had gone missing, which contained both her wrestling tights and one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. At the time, Ripley was a champion with Nikki ASH, but now her missing title has seemingly resurfaced. On social media, a person going by the name of Joseph appears to be in possession of Ripley's title belt, but rather than wanting to return the gold to the Australian superstar, is trying to sell it to the highest bidder. In a report from Dan Belzer, it is said that the seller is being reluctant to respond to any messages, perhaps realizing that they are trying to sell what is essentially a stolen item. After losing her bag, Ripley had to borrow a wrestling attire from her friend Damian Priest and wore a replica women's title until she and Nikki lost the gold to Carmella and Queen Zelina, but we certainly hope Ripley is reunited with her gold soon. And we're ending with Fandango, aka Dirty Dango, who, for all of his time on WWE television, had just one title reign to his name. Debuting on the main roster in 2013, Fandango's one and only reign happened when he returned to NXT, as Breezango once held the NXT tag titles, but there was a time when he nearly held another title. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet of Insight, the ex-WWE superstar discussed a proposed Intercontinental Championship run in 2013, which would have happened had a series of unfortunate events not derailed his push. They were going to put the IC title on me, and I got concussed working with Great Khali. I didn't tell them I was concussed, it was like a week or two before. I worked Khali a couple of weeks out from a pay-per-view, and we worked like a week before the pay-per-view. If you get concussed and go out and get hit again, it's a lot easier to get concussed. I was concussed, and I kept performing, and I didn't tell anybody. I think I was wrestling Zack Ryder in Long Island, and I took a shoulder tackle, and I was completely out. We got through the rest of the match, got to the back, and I thought I had just wrestled Khali because your brain just goes back to where you initially got f***ed up. And then I just said it. I thought I worked Khali, I got knocked out. I stooged myself off. To the company's protocol, I was completely wrong. You should definitely tell them when you're hurt because they don't want any athlete to get seriously injured. I grew up in the wrestling business, and if someone is going to put the IC title on you, you don't take yourself out of the game. They took me off TV for a couple of weeks. I think Curtis Axel won the title. It derailed me. I was partying a lot at the time too. I kind of let up. I was in developmental for so long, and in my mind, I got to the finish line and I made it. You don't just make it, you have to keep grinding after you get there even harder. I take full accountability for that. I kind of got there, I thought I was Vince's little pet, and I let up. That's on me. Fandango never got to hold the Intercontinental title, but he fully sees it as his fault, and perhaps things would have gone differently had he been honest about his concussion. Since his release, Fandango said he is open to working with AEW or Impact, but said that neither company has approached him so far, as the future looks uncertain for the ballroom dancing brawler.
Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.